Hey everyone, so this is going to be a should you read book review on Note to Self by Donald W. Catchings Jr. It was sent to me with an e-copy. So from the research that I was able to do, this author is a pastor in Texas and is writing some stories, basically modernizing some ancient myths. This book is based on the Narcissus Myth. The idea of a Greek man was very, very pretty, looked in the river at himself and got so entranced by his reflection that one of the gods came by and turned him into a flower. The way that it's told is really, really interesting, and it's a time travel story. I ended up giving it 3 stars because there were just more cons than pros in the story for me, but I really enjoyed the plot. Imagine if you have a great plot with characters you don't connect with. You want to know what happens in the story, but you don't really care what happens to the characters. And that's kind of what the story was for me. And I think it pulled me out of the story because I never really cared if the main character, if we switched main characters all the way, I wouldn't have cared because I didn't like the main character at all. And I don't think you were intended to really like the main character, but it was enough that it just really made me go, within the first 2 chapters, I dislike this guy on a horrible level. Like, he's an awful human being. The excuses that he has for being the way he is never give me the opportunity when he goes through this time travel story that he's ever going to change and be the person that we expect him to be at the end. And that was a big con for me. So I'll go through a quick summary, and then I'll do my pros and cons for you, kind of tell you what I liked, what I didn't like. And you can make a decision whether you want to read this book or not. So the story starts with a man named Kris, and he is a young writer. He's in a bar in Atlanta, and he's talking to a young lady who has feelings for him. He's so wrapped up in himself, he doesn't really realize that she has feelings for him, even though last time they got together, she kissed him. And he then goes home, upsetting her because he doesn't want to pursue a relationship with her, to his fiance, who's raising his little sister after him and his little sister's parents have died. And so he's treating his fiance and little sister basically like, you are a waste of my time. I'm trying to write the next great American novel, right? And he has this time travel idea, and he bounces the ideas off the girl that he was talking to. And so he uses her because she's good helping him with writing advice, and then he uses his fiance to take care of his sister. So he's just a user all over the place. So immediately you're thrown into this situation where you don't like it. And then he has this dream that he's telling the girl about time sacrifice, and it's a time travel idea where he has this elaborate dream about time travel. Events happen that I don't want to cue you into because that part of the story is really, really interesting. And these events that happen really keep you invested in the story. That part is done really well. So you're brought into this part of the story where he needs to time travel. He is approached by a man who puts a watch on his arm and sends him into the past. The way the time travel is done is so interesting that I wish the story character was a little better, so I enjoyed it more. Basically, time in the past is so set and so solid that any time that you interact with the past, it's painful. Like a blade of grass is like made out of metal. You step on a blade of grass, and that blade of grass can't move because it's already been that blade of grass in the past. So it's sharp. He, at one point, a raindrop hits him on the arm and dislocates his wrist. Things like that. The past is so set that you almost can do nothing in the past. But the future isn't set, so you can go there, but you can't ever bring anything back. You bring something back, it turns into ash, right? So it's an really, really interesting time travel idea that I liked a lot. Really interesting plot. The things that drive the story forward is very interesting, but did not like the characters. So I'll go into pros and cons here. Pro number 1, plot drives the story. Really, really good plot. Enjoyed it. Always wanted to know what was coming next. Time travel is very, very interesting, and I found it very, very cool. it was set in Atlanta, which I live in Atlanta. I've lived here for the last 15 years or so. And it was neat to see, the city I live in kind of highlighted in a book. There was a few really, 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 really great thoughts on living in the present and not focusing on the past and not focusing on the future and living in the moment with the people around you and loving them. I like that a lot. And it was just an easy read. I was able to get through it in a couple days. When I actually sat down and started reading it, I powered through it very, very easily. And so as we go into the cons, I probably should have left some pros for the end. That way I'm not ending on a bad note, but I'll say some good things about it at the end. Cons, main character, didn't like him one bit. He was not in any way convincing that you would ever get character development. Like imagine if you went to that man and said, if you don't change your ways, things are going to be horrible for you. You need to go into this moment and change your character. I don't think it would happen. I don't think in any way the character of this man would change. And I thought that was something that we never get from him. We never get the idea that even if you went into the past and talked to him, you would not get character development from him. I didn't really enjoy the beginning. It was kind of a false start, really, where it kind of just gave you an idea of who he was a little bit more. I think you could have done it differently, and it made a little bit more sense. I mean, I'm not the author. I'm not saying change your beginning because of me, but I didn't enjoy the beginning. But once I got past that beginning, the story rolled right on through, and I enjoyed it. One of the things I didn't like was there was an info dump about halfway through that just wasn't done very well, I think. He, as a character, starts to figure out so many things about the time travel that we're learning as he's learning. He's basically given the rules of time travel in a note, kind of written and given to him. And it's a lot of the stuff we've already gone over, and a few, particular rules, but you could have given those to us in a different way and made it feel more part of the story. And then it's not explained well. It makes sense at the ending, but about 3 to 4 chapters in, names change, and you know who the character is, and you know who they were at the beginning, and then you are in a name change with the character at that point, and you go, well, why did we change names? And you have to read all the way through to see why there was a name change, but I think we could have done without that, and it would have made the book a little less confusing. And the last con that I have is the format was a little bit weird. And because of this, I'm not going to accept e-arcs anymore. If you'd like me to read your book, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, just send me a physical copy. I've got another one that's an e-arc. I try to make it easy on authors, but it really pulls you out of the story when the formatting in the middle of the story changes and it gets kind of weird. And I don't know if I didn't get a finished copy, and maybe that's why it was kind of that way, but it felt like it just felt weird. Like all of a sudden font would change, or all of a sudden, size of text would change and things like that, it made my reading experience not as much fun. And so maybe if I was holding it physically, I'd be able to see exactly what the author was going for. I don't have a cover to show you guys, so it makes it a little bit harder to review. And so because of this story, I'm going to say, if you'd like me to read your novel, please send me a copy. That way I can physically read it and, kind of get a finished product and not waste my time. I really do think it is an interesting story. The time travel story was interesting. The plot was interesting. There are reasons to read the story, and I think people can get something out of it. It feels like an early book in an author's career. I don't know enough about the author to really say if that's the case that you get here, but for me personally, I found it a little bit hard to read. Sometimes some of the items pulled me out of the story enough that I want to do a good and honest review. It's not a bad book in any way. The things that I had problems with, other people will probably have problems with, but I want to be honest with you guys and let you know that these were things that I didn't enjoy. So let me know what you guys think. If you find this book interesting, or if you ever would like to pick it up, I think the author would really appreciate it. And I will leave his links and personal information down in the description of this video in case you would like to check this book out. It was an interesting story. It had a fantastic time travel element, and I would love to hear what you guys think about it. So let me know. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye. That gum mustache. Ugh.